Trumpism and conservative ideology has really
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. But before we get started, I am excited. Simone Biles, Childs, Lee, forgot her name, and the others. What a great floor performance. These are beautiful women, and they brought home the gold in the U.S. Olympics. They were Marvelous. And I tell you what, just inspiring to me to watch these young kids do things that we could only dream of back in the old days. But anyhow, we're going to have a great program for you today. Welcome aboard Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Welcome aboard Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome aboard Bridgem CP from where again? Binghamton, New York. Welcome aboard Peggy Lopez from California. I think it's LA. Confirm for me. Welcome aboard as well. And I'm scrolling down. Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia, the city that's going to bring us the presidency because Kamala, why am I following Trump? Kamala will be in Atlanta to go ahead and do her campaigning. Anyway, let me go ahead and start reading before we get all busy here. But before, Mike, as you can see, Michael Rudnin's got the first meme up on the screen, and it says as follows: "Your Marxist, socialist, pedo, communist, scumbag, Satanist, radical left vermin." And the answer to that was, "Man, you're weird." In other words, that's all we got to say. You're weird. Thanks to Governor of, I think it's a governor of, is it with Minnesota? What's his name again? Tom, once? Help me out here. I think it's a governor of Minnesota that said that. And you know what? It's starting to grow. Tea Party Central, North Red Bluff, Central California. Look, I am Tim Walz. You know, Tim Walz is growing on me. I'm thinking that I want him to be the vice presidential candidate because there's a certain kind of people that he can talk to and reach with his folksy types of talk that is so down to earth. I mean, he talks to me, right? He talks to me when he talks his progressive bona fides. I love the guy. You know, I also like Shapiro. I like them all. I like them all. But Tim Walz is number one for me now, I think. At first, it was Bridget from Michigan, but she took herself out of the Detmer. She took herself out of the run-ins. Anyway, let's start with the reading. All right, it goes like this. Egberto, when I look at my Facebook feed, I'm noticing mixed reaction to Kamala Harris's candidacy. The progressives are complaining about a lack of policy positions that benefit the people. They're talking about all the donations from big business. They're talking about the mainstream media treating her as if she is a progressive without any real evidence to support that. Progressives don't claim Kamala Harris among their own. They consider her center-left at best. She has to pick a progressive VP to unify progressives and the establishment, or we are in real trouble. If progressives play the fool, let me just be frank here. All right? Progressives need the very left side of the progressive, our group need to grow up. We need to grow up. At this point in time, I'm not even talking about the best of two evils. I'm not even talking about that. I am talking about right now, Kamala Harris is going to be the representative of the Democrats. Don't talk about what needs to be done and what we need to go in there. And after she is elected, we make things happen. That is what the Tea Party did to the Republican Party. That is what MAGA did to the Republican Party. Progressives, grow up. Nobody is more progressive than I am. I am the very left side of the spectrum. I am as left as one can go. I don't want to hear progressives concerned on what they're going to do. Grow up. You want to win the whole shebang? You can. You can bring so many people into the fold that instead of falling on your laurels like we did after Obama, one, you stay engaged. You make sure they do what you want to do or else. But this stuff about, oh, if you don't do this or no, you got to get out of that. Progressives have got to grow up. And again, it's demand after we have the power, after we show that we have the power, after we show that we have the power, then what we do, let me tell you something, Mister. I am not going to. I am start on my national program, right? What I'm telling all the progressives right now is exactly that: to grow up. And I'm not going to change that wording in this regard. And let me tell you why, Mister Rodnin. Because again, because again, if the most Americans are progressives, that's a statement of fact. Most Americans are progressives. The policies that they want are progressives. What we do too often is we allow, because of the stances that we take, and sometimes the fear of us to confront each other. Let me give a good example. I go into a room. Like I said, I'm as left as you can go. I go into a room with a whole bunch of my progressive brothers and sisters, and they start to say, well, we can't say X, Y, and Z because it's this person is going to hurt this LGBTQ person, it's going to hurt. I come out and I say, I tell you what, I want you all to tell me. I want you all to tell me, what do you want me to say? Start. You start. Okay, now you, now you, now you. And we hear a lot of different things. And then I say, okay, what do we share in common? What is it that we want? And we all converge. And when we converge, I said, so why are we going to let them win after we are in agreement with all these things and we have these semantic problems? These semantic problems. We are not going to get these semantic problems. I just told you what I want you to say. Focus on the issues that matter and unify over those issues. That's exactly what I just said, isn't it? When I go into the room. But what I'm saying, you don't start the conversation by saying, well, she is not progressive enough, or she's not this, or she's not that. Please tell me. Please tell me who is progressive enough. Name me a progressive that you support. You know, I'm not a Kamala fan. I'm not a Hillary fan. I am a Berniac to the core. And I tell everybody, I am a Bernie Sanders, Democratic, you know what. That's who I am. I'm to the very left of the spectrum. I guarantee you that nobody in this room right now is more left than I am. But you know what? I am also pragmatic. You know what? I am also, I know how to talk to all sides to bring that which unifies us, which is 78% or more of Americans. But we have to be able to get there. Yes, but if you insult, I'm not insulting anybody. Look, scroll up. There's a secular talk coming. I want you to read out. Okay, where is it? Go ahead. Come on. Let it out again. Put it in there again, Michael. You know I'll read the stuff. All right. But for the time being, let me just move on. And then put it in there and start it with caps so that I can see it in the full scroll, Michael. Let's see what else we got here. Undocumented immigrants paid $97 billion in federal taxes local in 2022. They take on our most difficult and essential jobs while helping fund programs they can't benefit from. You are a genius, Fleming. They're not freeloaders. And these are the kinds of message that Kamala shouldn't be putting out, but that all of us progressives should be pulling out. There's a lot of work for us progressives to do. What we have to do is give Kamala that progressive landslide. In other words, we got to bring out everybody, and then we got to go get paid after we bring all of those out. All right, I'm going to be coming down. I'm scrolling down. Eric Hayes says, line policies, fact first. I'm not even going to go there, Eric, because as you know, that's not true. It may be true in Earth number 2, not in the real Earth, on the real Earth. All right, break in. I think Brija had a good one as well. Project 2025 director steps down amid Trump campaign criticism. The director of the Heritage Foundation led Project 2025, Paul Dans, is departing from the role The conservative think tank's president Kevin Roberts said Tuesday, when we began Project 2025 in April 2022, we set a timeline for the project and concluded its policy drafting after the two-party conventions this year, and we are sticking to that timeline. Roberts said in a statement, Paul, who built the project from scratch and bravely led the endeavor over the past 2 years, will be departing the team and moving up to the front where the fight remains. Roberts said, we are extremely grateful for his and everyone's work on Project 2025 and dedication to saving America. Our collective efforts to build a personal apparatus for policymaking for all federal level state government. Dans was previously chief of staff with the Office of Personnel Management in the Trump administration. So there you go. Even in this guy leaving, it is admitted that it is a policy paper. And not only is it a policy paper, but that it was done by people who work for Donald Trump. Breach also says there are 70 MAGA election deniers in swing states in charge of certifying statewide votes. The intention is to have the election put before SCOTUS, which is why you see Trump telling people at his rally, I don't need you to vote. And I saw that piece. Look here. That's why progressives and all of that, we don't have the time to dilly-dally. We just have to go ahead and have a landslide, the same landslide that I've been talking about for several months now. Okay, let's see. The DOT, from Paul Fleming, the DOT regulated junk fees, airlines sued. The CFPB capped credit card fees, banks sued. Medicare is negotiating RX prices. Big Pharma sued. The FTC banned non-compliant business groups sued. Corporate America can't stand how the Biden-Harris administration is working for the people. And yeah, Biden gave us the most progressive policies we have seen in a lifetime. Okay, here we go with Michael Rudden again. He says, I feel I need to repeat yesterday's post. Secular talk, Kyle Kulinski. Tim Walz is by far the most base Democrat governor in the country with a one-seat majority in Minnesota. He did universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040, tax rebates for the working class up to $1,300, making under $150K a year, 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave, ban conversion therapy, red flag laws for guns, universal background checks for guns, automatic voter registration, free public college under 80K, ban on PFAS, forever chemicals, 2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding. Now, there must be a reason why I love the guy. That's who I said I wanted, isn't it? That's who I said I wanted, Tim Walz. And I wrote about this before. It's funny because I remember when they passed it, and I made a big stink about a one vote majority could do this. Then Biden should be able to have done this in the first term. And actually, Biden did pretty good in his first term. Of course, we had Manchin and Sinema, who are nothing more than Democrats in name only. But what can I say? Anyhow, so yeah, Michael, I'm with you on that one. No doubt whatsoever. All right, let's go ahead. I want to read this one. Michael and Eric's discussion here. You can read what Eric had to say. I don't, but here's what he said. Eric Hayes, let's address each of these points. VP wants to eliminate private insurance. Yes, that's what Medicare for All would do eventually. Whether we get there from a public options or a straight to single payer system. Defund the police. Yes. What you want to shift police responsibilities towards more social workers? Of course. But, defund the police. I spoke to the person who came up with that word. From a marketing standpoint, you have to do too much explaining. The mere fact you have to explain that's an issue. Approve of 70 to 80% tax rate. Yes, that would be the top marginal rate. The problem is a lot of MAGA folks don't understand what marginal tax rate is, Rudden. Marginal tax rate. In other words, most people don't get the tax. Only the folks who make above X amount of money, folks. Rudden is perfectly right. Let's continue. And it's clear don't understand the difference between flat tax rate and tiered tax rate. Exactly. Eliminate fracking. Yeah. Fracking is messing up the drinking water and a lot of other stuff. And by the way, you see those earthquakes that you're having in West Texas? Oh my God, what's causing that again? Oh, and by the way, you see all those exploding wells where we're putting all that fracking fluid under pressure? That after they explode, the companies who profited from that are nowhere to be found, and farms in West Texas are bubbling up with polluted water. I guess you need to do some reading. I brought on the guy who was running for a railroad commissioner here in Texas, and he could explain it quite to you. And he's an oil man. I tell you, the destruction of our environment from people who claim they love the earth. Hello, Steigen Birken Creek. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Great to have you here, my beautiful lady. I have been looking into Kamala, as I do admit I never really paid attention to her, but I have to say she's an excellent progressive candidate. Look, let me tell you, the political game is this, right? Look at where she came from. Look at who her mother is. Look at who her father is. That's all I'm going to say. Look at what they did in the movement and how they reared her. I have to say the same thing about, in as much as we called Biden a neoliberal, when he had nothing else to lose, what did he do? His true colors came out, and he gave us the most progressive set of policies, bar none. I want folk, and that's what I talk about, strategic thinking, and that is what progressives are and should be known for. Strategic thinking, intellect, intelligence. That's what we are known for. Let's make sure that we have that realized. Let's see what else. Michael Reyes, Eric Hayes needs to watch John Fox Garland to see how much damage fracking has done to the drinking water and surrounding. In Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. There are now groundwater areas that are unusable. Unusable. It is amazing. Eric, I don't think you want to talk. Garland, thank you, brother. I don't. Gasland, exactly. I actually saw it with the flames coming out of the water faucet from the groundwater. The guy who had groundwater. Yeah, I saw the whole movie. I think there are two. Actually, I think there are two of them. There are two of them. Egberto, to say her name correctly, make believe it has a O like comma. Kamala. And what did I say? Kamala? Kamala? Okay, Kamala. Yeah, look, let me tell you, I hope folks don't hold it against me when I mispronounce her name because it's not on purpose. I'll try to learn to do it right. But I can tell you that I suffer from people mispronouncing my name. They call me Egbert, Egbert, Umberto. My name is Egberto. Egberto. How many people say my name correctly? Egberto. Do I get mad when somebody doesn't say Egberto? No, I don't. No, I don't. Because I understand I'm an American, it's not the best name, but I'll say Kamala. Better yet, say Harris. Men always called by last name. I think, for the respect thing, I think that's right. Miss Harris. Miss Harris. Miss Harris. Do you get mad at shorthand Berto? No, not. Look, I don't get mad at it. I don't care what the hell you want to call me. Call me anything you want to. Hell, people have even called me the N word on this program before. To which I normally say, though, are you having a bad day? Is that what it is? Or do you think that's going to have some impression on me? It actually doesn't. I find it that it actually shows the deficiency of the person who's doing it. But hey, that's for another day. Anyway, folks, Project 2025. Joy and Reid did a great piece on it. And I want you guys to listen to it. And then after, I'd have a piece on the other guy. All right, let's go ahead and do this right now. And then we'll take it on the other side. Joy and Reid had two panelists on recently to discuss Project 2025. And let me tell you, first of all, do not really believe what you're hearing when Donald Trump has caused the leader of Project 2025 to step down. He's panicking because he realizes that people are taking Project 2025 as seriously as they should, as seriously as they must. So all of them are trying to say now, we don't have anything to do with Project 2025, when all the judges that came about were all from the Heritage Foundation, the designers of Project 2025, with all these people that work for the Trump administration. But if you doubt how draconian this Project 2025 is, I want you to listen to this excerpt that Joyanne Reid did with a couple of panelists, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The threats to women. Abortion was not mentioned at the RNC convention, but it's mentioned here, and it is in jeopardy.
Well, that was by design. Yeah, they wanted us to forget that they had taken credit for overturning Roe v. Wade. And the scary thing is, when you look at so much of Project 2025, they're using certain communities as scapegoats, but only to design ways to restrict all of us. You know, J.D. Vance was just talking about how he wanted to stop women from being able to travel across state lines to get care. Well, doesn't that sound a lot like the Fugitive Slave Act, right? So what we have to understand is all of this is connected. It is a scary plan. It is a dangerous one. And when you look at some of their strategies, it's flat out creepy how they want to control our lives, who we love, and how we live.
Yeah, and men would be in jeopardy, too, because if you're transporting a woman across state lines, you, too, would be in jeopardy. This is some, men have daughters, they have sisters, they have wives. So this is a plan to essentially Handmaid's Tale this country by force. This is a very tiny percentage of the American people who are hyper right-wing Christians. I'm a Christian. I grew up in the church. But this is not Christianity as most of us practice it. How small is this group of people that would be exercising power over the rest of us?
Well, the good news for our democracy is that 2/3 of the country rejects this vision.
Yeah.
It's about 3 in 10 Americans who can be identified as Christian nationalists, either adherents or sympathizers to this worldview that you've described fairly well. But 2/3 of the country does not. But it's also 2/3 of white evangelicals that do embrace this. Right. It's a majority of Republicans who do embrace this. So it's wildly out of step with mainstream America, but it is at the heart of the MAGA movement that's fueled by white evangelical Protestants, and that you see all the way into this document.
When you hear Donald Trump say, "Don't worry, Christians, just vote this one time, you'll never have to vote again," what did you hear?
The most extreme things that Trump says, he tends to say for white Christian audiences. Yeah. That statement about he could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in the middle, that was at Evangelical College that he made that statement. I don't think this is hyperbole. I mean, I really do think, like this document, we are getting in real time a telegraphed statement about what they intend to do. And it's an authoritarian white Christian nationalist vision, where, as you said, it's white Christian men who are at the top of the power pyramid. The word order appears over and over. An ordered society, a well-ordered society, ordered liberty. All that is code for hierarchy, right? It's this old 19th century vision that has this ancient, and it's not all Christians, to be sure, but this older vision of a white Christian America really baked into the center of it.
What do you find the most alarming and the most frightening, the thing that you want people to know about top of mind?
How they are using the federal government to institutionalize bigotry structurally, right? The idea that he would come into office and fire nearly 1 million federal workers, career workers, right? That's scary. And then input foot soldiers that would just carry out his will. The idea that they want to turn the Health and Human Services Agency into the Department of Life and charge it with promoting heterosexuality as a quote unquote ideal family unit, and then attach federal benefits to those criteria. That's scary. And I think ultimately here, we're not just talking about policies or impacting specific communities, though that's laid out quite clearly in Project 2025. But what we're talking about is the undermining of democracy. He's even saying out loud, if you vote in this election for him, for Donald Trump, that could be the last election you have to vote for. As Dr. Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
The first time. People always leave out the first time.
Yes.
What alarms you the most?
There's actually 2 sentences out of all this 900 pages that I think were the most chilling to me to read. I'm just going to read them here.
Yes, please.
They said, an individual must be free to live as his creator ordained in order to flourish. Our Constitution grants each of us the liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. Now, who gets to define that ought? The very next sentence gives us a clue. The pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving dinners, and the like. So that other 900 pages, that's in the foreword of this document. What the other 900 pages really are about that 1950s Norman Rockwell vision of a white Christian America, with white Christian men and their heterosexual marriages kind of reigning up here and everybody else knowing their place.
And for women, what are the most alarming things? Because obviously a national ban on abortion would be a part of it, but there's a lot more to it. I mean, the Comstock Act looms pretty large. You can use it in more ways than just to stop abortion.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to fundamentally reshape American life for women in this country. I mean, you can see all of that laid out in Project 2025. But I do have to say this. It clearly calls for a national ban on abortion. They intend to make that the reality. Also, I mean, the ways that they're defining heterosexuality and the ideal family unit, they are actually trying to put provisions into place to control us in our decisions. I mean, this trad wife, kind of housewife trend that they're trying to promote, that's actually a system of power and control over women's lives. So let's be clear. Everything that we enjoy today is our normal way of being, right? From being able to go to work, to raise your kids in the way that you choose, to have a partner that you decide and pick, all of that they're saying they want the government to control it. So let's be clear. This is a dangerous, dangerous document that's laying out exactly what they plan to do.
So again, don't be fooled. These guys are trying to take us back to a position of indentured servitude, to a position where there are these folks that they think deemed the ones on the top while the rest of us survive. I mean, they're trying to distance themselves from it already. But here's the thing. The Project 2025 tenets are already in motion. We have a Supreme Court that was assigned by them. And what is the first thing that they did for Donald Trump? Give Trump immunity from whatever illegal stuff he does while in office. What do you think is the purpose of that? The purpose of that is to ensure that a dictator can do as they please legally. That's what Project 2025 is all about. Project 2025 is the revamping of government by all means necessary, even if done by a coup while Donald Trump is president, if he were to become president. So therefore, to prevent that eventuality, we have to deny the Supreme Court the ability to pander to, well, not pander, but to give Trump the leeway to do what he wants, to become the dictator. We have to stop before it even gets started. And then as soon as the right folks are in power, meaning the Congress, the Senate, and the presidency, we start to reform the court, similar to what President Biden is talking about, but much more extensive, because right now what we have are 6 people who have the power to tell over 350 Americans what they will do, who they will follow, etc. Again, Project 2025 is just the pathway. But you know what? We can use Project 2025 as our pathway. And what pathway is that? The pathway to a democratic landslide. Because when Americans are aware that what this document does is it's a matter of enslavement, it's a matter of control, it's a matter of your personal economy, they will think twice and they'll realize they don't want to come anywhere close to the America those people believe in. It's a weird America those people believe in. I mean, and the funny thing about it is what they don't get is all those policies that they're supporting with Project 2025, etc., will screw them all. It will screw them all. And sadly, they choose their prejudices, their insularness is stopping them from having any practical thinking. By the way, they opened up that account again. It seems like Paul Fleming. They had shut down the dudes for Harris, which was, and it seems to be back up again. They try all these kinds of things. That's what happened when you have control, the private sector controlling certain aspects. I think we need to define Facebook Twitter, and all these things that people have galvanized on, and consider them utilities, and as such regulate them as utilities. And the reason we have to do that, first of all, let's be clear. The platform that they are all using, called the internet, was developed by government dollars. So don't let anybody say, "Ah, the government take over," and all that crap. The reality is, like, what again? We developed that with government money. Let's continue here. Paul Fleming says white dudes for Harris suspension sparks fear, but it's back up. I just checked it. But I mean, we are going to have to keep our eyes open for all the dirty tricks the billionaires are going to try to do on us. Okay, we have to go ahead and do that. All right, Michael is responding to Eric. Eric think he's going to find some fact check from fact check for Joanne Reid's Project 2025 and somehow find it wrong. Let's see. Trying to draw a distinction between Project 2025 and the people who wrote it, it's a distinction without a difference. As Republicans would cut Social Security if they had a chance, and you know it. AFP fact check, Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 proposes Social Security cuts. Social media posts claim Project 2025 a series of conservative policies proposal for United States recommends cutting Social Security and disability benefits. This is misleading. While the Heritage Foundation, which spearheaded the initiative alongside 100 groups, advocates for raising the retirement age and other forms that cut, such proposals do not appear in Project 2025 itself. And that is not quite true. Like Michael says, you better read between the lines. You better read between the lines. What drives me crazy is when we get the mainstream media who falls for, somebody on the right send them a document saying, "Look, you see, it's nowhere to be found there," and they say, "Well, that is like saying instead of calling somebody black, you call them moreno, right?" And so when somebody goes out and say, they call them black in that paper, say, "Oh no, they never call them black. They call them moreno. They never call them negro. They call them moreno." So I like what you had to say. A difference without a difference, or whatever that phrase is. Lee Grant says, sounds like progressivism is anti-family. Nope. Conservatism is anti-family. You want me to prove that? I can prove that easily. The people who support policies like family leave, sick leave, subsidized care for children, all of those are build families. Those are policies that build strong families. Head Start, policies that build strong families. What do Republicans want to do? We don't want to support policies that increase taxes to pay for health care. We don't want to increase taxes to pay for child care. We don't want to increase taxes to pay for all these other things. In fact, we want to cut taxes, which means cut them, right? That is a very anti-family behavior. Again, what conservatives are good at saying is they tell you we are pro-family, but nothing that they do supports the family. While Democrats don't go brag about we are pro-family or pro-life or anything, they just execute the things that proposes the support for life, support for families, etc. Let's get it right, people. Let's get it right. And folks, progressives, you all have to be, when one of our brothers says something like that, you have to be on top of it. You have not just say, "No, we believe in families." Say, "No." Draw the distinction. Progressives believe in families. It is those who oppose family values, like Republicans who don't want family care, like Republicans who don't want paid leave, like Republicans who don't want these things. That is how you hit back immediately. Immediately. That is how you must handle it 100%. Paul Fleming says a large majority of Americans support federal action to protect abortion, 68%, LGBTQ rights to marriage, 67%, the bipartisan infrastructure law, 65%, banning assault weapons, 67%, and imposing the term limits on Supreme Court justices, 65%. The notion that Harris has to move closer to the center ignores that she already reflects consensus view. Exactly. She doesn't need to move anywhere close to any center. I mean, most Americans are not what we call the center today. Most Americans are where progressives are. And you know what? Even those that like to play like they're not, they're still taking their Social Security check or whatever money the government is giving them. So let's be clear here. All right, what else have we got here? Okay, I got another video for you, and this one is about Vance. So let's go ahead and play that, and we'll take it on the other side. I taped this, I think, a couple days ago. Trumpism and conservative ideology has really messed up the minds of many. And unfortunately, what it does is it lay waste to the white working class. And JD Vance is the perfect example of how one can move out of there and completely turn on the people that he was from, this working class community, as well as just forget about policies that really help them. The New York Times has a great article. It's dated July 27th. It was released yesterday about JD Vance. And in the letter, it spoke about a correspondence between JD Vance, somebody that went to law school with him. And what it really shows is that JD Vance isn't, by definition, the conservative, MAGA, crazy guy that he is. He had a relationship, a very close friend that was a transgender person, and they would exchange emails constantly. And finally, JD Vance pretty much, by his votes and support, he just threw the guy under the bus. But I want to read you some excerpts of this particular New York Times article titled JD Vance, An Unlikely Friendship and Why It Ended. Subtitled, His Political Views Differed from a Transgender Classmates, but They Forged a Bond That Lasted a Decade until Mr. Vance seemed to pivot politically and personally. It drives me crazy, the types of subtitles and titles that the New York Times use, not really describing how deep the issue is. He should pretty much say JD Vance is a chameleon. Not only is JD Vance a chameleon, but JD Vance has no values if he can change it at will. But I want to read you a little excerpt here. It said, this was an email between Vance and his transgender friend. He said, "Hey, Sophies, here's an excerpt from my book." He was talking about his book to his friend. Mr. Vance wrote to his friend, Sophia Nelson, "I sent this to you not just to brag, but because I'm sure if you read it, you'll notice reference to an extremely progressive lesbian. I recognize now that this may not accurately reflect how you think of yourself, and for that, I'm really sorry," he wrote. "I hope you are not offended, but if you are, I'm sorry. Love you, JD." That's what he's writing to the transgender friend. Nelson wrote back the same day, calling Mr. Vance buddy and thanking him for being sweet, adding, "If you had written genderqueer radical pragmatist, nobody would know what you mean." Nelson asked for an autographed copy, then signed off with "Love, Sophia." So you can see that Vance was not a bad guy. He understood identities. He understood all these particular issues before he turned into this crazy right-wing kook. He then says, the emails in which Mr. Vance criticized former President Donald J. Trump both for racism and as morally reprehensible human being add to an already existing body of evidence showing Mr. Vance's ideological pivot from never Trumper to Mr. Trump's running mate. And they reflect a young man quite different from the hard right culture warrior of today who back then brought homemade baked goods to his friend after Nelson underwent transition-related surgery. The visit cemented their bond. In other words, he even cared for his friend who was trans and had the surgery to change. But it continues. But Nelson and Mr. Vance had a falling out in 2021 when Mr. Vance said publicly he supported an Arkansas ban on gender-affirming care for minors, leading to a bitter exchange that deeply hurt Nelson. He achieved great success and became very rich by being a never-Trumper who explained the white working class to the liberal elite, Nelson said, referring to Mr. Vance's successful 2016 book. Now he's amassing even more power by expressing the exact opposite. Now, Nelson, who opposes the Trump-Vance ticket, hopes the emails inform the opinions of voters. You know, what he did is he finally said he had it. He said to hell with it. I know who Vance really is. I exchanged these emails with Vance. And look, if somebody can change like this to hurt the people he loves, to hurt the people he know would be affected by his policy, that's somebody that doesn't deserve to be a heartbeat away from the presidency or the vice president himself. he also talks about times when he had written conversation turn to a much discussed essay by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't know if you guys remember the book that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote about reparations, etc. Mr. Vance offered whatever problems he had with reparations generally. He said, I have at least been convinced of the virtue of compensating modern victims who've suffered redlining or denial of federal benefits. So there you have a guy who comes out and he pretty much says, yeah, I kind of support reparations, because, these people were treated badly. After the shooting at Emmanuel's AME Church in Charleston, remember that guy who shot down 10, 12 or so black people in the church, a white kid that had the gun? He said after a shooting at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, the two were again discussing race. Mr. Vance said he didn't understand why people can't see the connection between this person murdering innocent people and the fact that the Confederate flag by democratic will still flies. In other words, he wanted the flag gone. He wanted the monuments gone at the South Carolina State House. I'm not sure how to wrap my head around this. You take a look at item after item and you wonder how could, first of all, Trump pick this dude, but he picked him because his ideology is malleable, right? That's why he picked him. He also said, Vance said, I'm obviously outraged at Trump's rhetoric, and I worry most of all about how welcome Muslim citizens feel in their own country, he wrote. And there have always been demagogues willing to exploit the people who believe crazy shit. What seems different to me is that the Republican Party offers nothing that's attractive as the demagogue. So you see, he even hit the Republican Party for who they have become. And it is sort of amazing that how this guy has come around. Now, there's another statement he makes in the article that I really want to cover, and that has to do with what he believed of the police, right? You always talk about the law and order party. Here's what he had to say, J.D. Vance, that is. He said, at times they exchange messages infrequently. At other times, they would have energetic back and forth several times a week. And their talks reflected the history playing around them. Protests against police violence in Ferguson, the massacre of black church goers in South Carolina, etc. But one of the times he had the following to say. Here's what he thought about cops. A conversation Vance had could be surprising. When it comes to cops, the law and order party, right? There's a conversation that Vance had with his friend. In October 2014, in the wake of killing of Michael Brown, an 18-year-old black man by a white officer in Ferguson, Nelson raised the idea of requiring that police officers wear body cameras. And this was Vance's response. I hate the police, Mr. Vance said in his response. Given the number of negative experiences I've had in the past few years, I can't imagine what a black guys go through. Also, this guy is admitting that he does know that police officers in general, first of all, they are power hungry. But secondly, what it means, the police interaction between law enforcement and police. He acknowledges it. So this is a guy that is completely different than what you're hearing. And anybody that has that lack of character, it should tell you something. It should disqualify both Vance and Trump from the presidency. Let's see what's going on with my audio. There we go. It seems like it's working now. All right, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and talk this over again. First of all, let me read what Michael Rudden had to say. Reading the chat is kind of depressing, ain't it? Conservatives never want to address their opposition desires without misunderstanding and then strawmanning that lacking. Liberals and progressives want government to build up our nations. We want government to give people a helping hand, especially when they're struggling. It's why we keep talking about infrastructure investments, living wages, universal health care, free public colleges, affordable housing, affordable childcare, etc. Even on social wedge issues like reproductive rights and minority rights, we're trying to fix systemic problems that are adversely affecting them, and we are trying to make sure that people have what they need. I'll say it again, conservatives will never challenge these ideas without misunderstanding it. So look, let me tell you something, Michael. when I see these conservative, specifically conservative men in this chat, and you say, oh, it's depressing to watch what they're doing. Let me tell you something that you don't know. There are a lot of other conservatives that, because we have these conservatives in this chat, are actually listening and learning. These guys come across like not having much upstairs because they are not seeming to be able to rationalize. Okay? You give them evidence, and again, look, if you ask each one of these guys individually, do you want to do these things for people? Would you like people to have a good college education, etc.? If you sit down with a cup of coffee with them on a good day, all these things that progressives want, you'll see most of them say like, yeah, that would be a good thing. That would be a good thing. But you see, their minds are controlled by a certain kind of thing that says, if somehow we give these people something, that we lose something. I want you to think about that. If you read what you've just stated there, Michael, that seems like something Jesus Christ would have said. But you listen to those who oppose those things that you've just said. They may claim to be Christians, right? But everything that comes out of their mouth is anathema to what you've just pointed out there, to what progressives believe. And they cannot rationalize that when Jesus came and he said, I'm going to take these 2 pieces of bread and feed the masses, when he said the stranger, to bring in the stranger, when he talks about going and giving a helping hand to those most in need, they somehow are unable to see that it is completely opposed to what they promote. That's why I give the leaders of the evangelical church so much trouble. I will call those people names. They are evil. Every single evangelical that comes out for dropping taxes, etc., they're evil. They come and they talk about wanting to support people. They suck on the tit of the nation because they don't pay taxes. They're here in Texas. They have homes that they don't have to pay taxes on, and they live in lavish homes that the average American person who goes to church pays for. So you go to all these pastors' homes here in Texas. They don't pay taxes on it. They live in these lavish homes. A lot of their parishioners can barely make the 10% tithe that they demand out of them. You go to one of these evangelical churches today, they want you to give them your pay stub. And they want to tell you how much you're required to tithe based on your income. And you think they have the moral authority? And these are the people that are leading that sect that the guy in the Project 2025 is talking about, the white evangelical group. And by the way, when we talk about the white evangelical Christians, that the white nationalist Christians, that is a moniker, because there are a small percentage of just about folks of all classes or whatever that is in that group that is doing us harm. Okay? I want you guys to understand that. So when I see people in this chat that are showing those colors, and we are able to promote the message that we're saying, it is so much more effective for a conservative listening to our talk than if they weren't here. Because they make that distinction. They're like, oh my God, can these people really believe the things that they say? Number one. Number two, how can they be that way? So I'm telling you, Michael, no, it doesn't make me sad at all. It doesn't make me sad. They are assisting to change those. They may be immutable, I'll keep trying with them. They may be immutable. I won't ever stop trying. But the one thing that I do know is that I'm helping a lot of folks, both on our side and on the conservative side. And you know how I know it? I get the emails. I get the message that says, wow, I never looked at it that way before. So all of you here in the PDR posse right now, all of you in the PDR posse, the messages that you put in there, all of that are doing the right thing. And let me tell you better, guys, if you doubt it, just from our change that we've been making, it turns out the latest morning consult survey shows that Miss Harris's, VP Harris's favorability rating has skyrocketed. Now that we are starting to present what she stands for, it says the latest, here it is on the screen. The latest morning consult poll survey gives Harris a 50% approval rating, which is significantly higher than one conducted a week before when her favorability was at 43% and 51% had an unfavorable rating. And of course, we know the orange man, the evil dude, is actually in the dumps again. And Eric says, be surprised what people say about progressives that name, call, and shut down others. We're not shutting down anybody. How can you talk about shutting down people if you're here? Have I ever shut you down? You're right here. You can say as you please. You post in here as you want. You have the option to say as you please. That what you say doesn't make any sense half of the times. I can't help you there. I try to talk to you and many others based on logic, intellect, intelligence, fact-based information. You can choose to accept it or not. You can choose to accept it or not. One of the problems I have is so many people on the progressive side know so little about their own constitution, know so little about the things that created this country, that makes this country. But you want to have a big voice, but you don't have the discipline to go learn something on your own. You depend on a right-wing hack who has a plan to control you, to teach you. You can read the Constitution on your own. You can read all these things on your own and learn on your own. And you know what? It'll make you a progressive. You don't have to listen to Fox News, who ill-informs you. But he says, Egberto, Willis, look up Peter Thiel, the man behind Vance, and his rise to flame. He's the one who got Vance there. Yeah, I heard about that. That he's the one who, I guess he paid Donald Trump a certain amount to get him on the ticket, because the guy is completely unqualified to be on the ticket, but he's on the ticket. So yeah, I need to. I'll read that article though. Michael says Eric doesn't realize that Egberto reads the chat, but not every message deserves to be read out. If you're going to post rolling messages that would pollute the airwaves, you're not going to get the benefit. No, I'm not going to look. And not only that, like I said, this is a podcast as well. So this is going to go on. When I process it, it's going to go to thousands of folks to hear it. So I am not going to pollute the space, which, remember, when you put out a podcast now, it is automatically digitized and indexed and all of that kind of stuff. I am not going to go ahead and pollute it. Telling people to lie is not good either. I never told anybody to lie. Again, and that's a lie. I told Johnny that what we need to learn as progressives is not to put something out there that allows people to lie about it. That's why I said, you don't need to go out and say, you don't need to go out and put, oh, there's X, that Kamala is so progressive. It says, you don't need to say that. It's not a lie. You're not saying it because you know that they're going to distort it. Because why? The right wing is a bona fide lying machine. It's that simple. But anyway, I got to get out of here, my dear peeps. Love you all. But before I go, I need to ask you all to please support what we do. The only way we are going to get through this funk, the only way we're going to allow ourselves to move forward is if we go ahead and support this program. And how can, well, this program and programs like this. And how do we do that? First of all, the all-encompassing manner to support this program is to go to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. You can also, but if you want to give us a good sustaining type support, I'd love for you to become a paid member of our newsletter. I think you are going to love our newsletter and all that comes with it. And with that comes the ability to read my 5 books. Okay. Again, you don't have to go buy them. You can read the 5 books at Substack. But we need your support. So please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, become a paid supporter of Politics Done Right. And that helps us do what we do here. It also helps us promote the message. It also helps us all around. And for that, what do you get? Like I said, access to all of our books. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.